In today's video, I want to explain you how I go about my mixing, and I will show you different concepts on how you can mix. In general, like a mix has a lot of dimensions, so front, back, left, right, top, down, delays, reverbs, everything, frequencies, volumes. But we will focus a little bit more on the frequency side and on the volume side. So we will bring all our instruments, all our tracks in the track to the right volume, and not to focus so much on EQing and having the right amount of EQ and delay in this tutorial, because I think it would be a little bit too big and could be like a whole series on its own. So the first thing which I think is important is that you mix as you go. So whenever you're creating a track, I mean, don't interrupt your creative workflow in that moment for finding the perfect EQ, but always keep mixing in your head and don't kind of like move everything to the end, because I really strongly believe that you cannot create something beautiful if your mix is all over the place while your creation phase. So the further you get into your creation, the further you should also be close to your final mix. My mixing concept is, as I explained in earlier videos, that I kind of like shape from more raw to more detail. A little bit like a guy who's doing a stone sculpture, for example. He chops off the really big parts in the beginning and then he goes smaller and smaller and more detailed, because I believe that's the best way actually to get to a really good mix. Nevertheless, we will look at a different option as well, and the different option is to put like all the faders in the end down. I mean, it's not like a different options. You still should mix along the way, but that's kind of like the two ways you can go in the end once you reached everything after your creation. Either you continue with that and chop off small little bits, or you kind of like reset everything. And both has advantages and disadvantages. I would say like if you put all the faders down, you get like a completely unbiased view on your mix. There may be failures which you ignored or even didn't notice anymore. For example, sounds which are silent and you don't even listen, so they don't bug you, but maybe they are missing. Those things you can better achieve if you put all the faders down and then give things priority and pull them up again. So that's a cool concept we will look at. And the other one, which I'm personally using more, is I'm going still in rounds then. So let's imagine I have my track ready like this. So this one is maybe like 95% ready. Let's imagine it would be ready. Then what I would do is I would listen on different devices, so headphones, monitors, to my track. And then I would make notes on what I don't like, what I can improve, and then I go round by round. And actually there's another caveat here. Usually you should rest your project for like 2-3 weeks before you touch it for mixing, because you will have a strong bias. So let's say you're hearing the same too loud sound for like the last 2 weeks, then you will notice it, and that's something I haven't done here, so bear with me if it's not the perfect mix in the end. I just want to show you how I would go about this. But there's also a downside if you put all the faders down, because you're kind of like starting from scratch, so you're moving in bigger steps, and I think it's a little bit harder than kind of like doing all those smaller and smaller steps to a final result. So it's something you have to decide for yourself what kind of style you like more. But anyways, I would advise you to do what I do today, to create like different mixes and just look in the end which result you like more, because then you can make a more objective decision on which style is really good for you, and also maybe you end up with a better mix than usual. Also, I would advise you to bring a reference. I brought like 2, sometimes I bring 3 references. The best is if you have it in the same key and BPM. My primary focus is to choose tracks which I really like. So I put 2 tracks I really like, which are, let's say, like close maybe in key and BPM, not in every aspect, to be honest. We will use this one today for referencing because I want to keep it a little bit faster, but it's good if you compare to like several tracks, the same with the devices, so you have several headphones, listen on them. I personally exclude kind of all headphone types which are really cheap and like whatever, like iPhone headphones which don't have a really good bass, because that's not my focus. So I want to make music which is really good at festivals and clubs. I sacrifice a little bit the consumer side, I would say. So because I believe if your headphones anyway is not replicating the bass really well, I think then people may less care about it. You have to decide for yourself what's your goal and what you are going to mix for, but keep in mind what's kind of like your customer, your your final goal in the end, and that will help you to make better decisions along the way. And then once I'm usually done with that, I kind of like rewind everything. So I move in kind of like iterations. So maybe I do 1, 2, 3 iterations today, then I do 1 tomorrow, then 1 next week, and so on. And kind of like time spaces get a little bit bigger. And at one point I decide it's final, it's good. And usually I then give it to another guy to do like the final mix, because I'm quite biased with my tracks. And I think it's a good idea to have a second person looking over it. A second span here, which gets the signal from this one. And I put the utility in a way that when I play my track, so let's play it somewhere, the kicks are more or less at the same level. So that's the first setting. And the second thing you need to decide is what time you use. And I personally use times which are like either like around like 1 bar, so that's a little bit faster signal, or maybe like 4, 8 or 16 bars. I don't know if it really makes a difference if you have a few milliseconds less or more on that kind of like huge average thing. You can also go here into average and those. To be honest, I don't really know what's best. I think you want to have something which moves fast enough that it just doesn't sum over all of it, and also moves slow enough so that you don't get like those really tiny peaks in everywhere. So I think like 1, maybe 2, 4 bars should be really good, because that's also usually where like a lot of things repeat. So I guess that could be like a good average time. Let me know what experience you made with that in the comments, because that would be really interesting. Maybe you are a mixing mastering engineer, and make me smarter and tell me what's the real way to do this. That's how I go. Important is that you set both to the same values, because otherwise you will be comparing apples with oranges again. I just keep the one in the master open. As said, I would listen first with my ears over all of it and see if something really sticks out. Then I would go more here with the reference track. I already know that I have a mix which has a lot of high mids and mids, and we will try today if it sounds better if we bring it more, for example, to this track. So let's listen one time to the raw version, and also let's look at the spec.
Visions of the most beautiful and intricate of objects can be seen. One sense of space is often destroyed.
Time fluctuates.
So even and sense data can tangle to the extent one may smell the color of time. So let me take you on a trip.
I may should have turned the red one off to not confuse you guys too much. As said, you cannot compare a break part like here, for example, for part where you have full drums and everything going on. So just to say, like, if you rewind back, it's about the green one and not so much about the red one while playing. But that's kind of like the raw basic mix, like how I have it and how I would start going into my mixing process. So that's kind of like out of production. Now let's try the version with all faders down. I will not pull the kick down because the kick is our reference for everything. So it's not about readjusting the kick here. So let's put this down and then we'll put all that off for now. So let's move the bass up. Let's try this. Where do we land? 5.8, a little bit more silent than before. So let's put our drums down. Let's go with the snare first. I would say between here. And now comes the problem actually of that fade us down, in my opinion, because you don't have kind of like the relationship to all the other elements, which kind of like gives you the fresh perspective, but also which makes it really hard, in my opinion, to find the right volumes. We definitely need to go back later here, because let's say we have all the leads playing, then this, this will definitely change because usually the snare gets too hidden. Then let's go with maybe like this. There's also a lot of things when you focus on them, it doesn't really bug you so much than as if it's listening through the whole track, then it's too loud. As I said, I'm not really used to this kind of mixing style, so it's really actually some experiment for me as well. Let's go like that, and with the crash. Let's try it like that. Maybe we'll revisit it later once we have everything. Oh, I just noticed I put like 1.5 down here. So I think the better way is if we would put everything 1.5 down here. You see, like everything is moving once I touch this. Now we will go about the leads. And in order to do that, we will compare a little bit more things which are more similar. Usually I would listen to that and then compare a bit more, but I cannot do that because of copyright stuff. So I will just take a guess what's more similar. Yeah, let's imagine that track would be like this. And then we have maybe a little bit better to compare without that break section. So now once we have our groove, we will make a look at the leads. And there comes another K-feed I want to tell you. I wouldn't kind of like mix my stuff the same volume everywhere. So usually if I go into that more like shaping mode, I also automate the volumes different at different parts. I probably have done this here, but this will make this whole mixing thing from scratch a little bit more difficult, I guess. So we will look at some main section here. So basically one of those three here. Start with this one. And now we can also bring Actually, I already made a mistake here. We didn't really prioritize really well here. So for example, in that section, I guess actually the melody would be the main focus, which I completely forgot because I thought there are only FMs in here. And there comes another thing which you need to take care on when mixing. You can actually see it here in the waveform. This thing doesn't have very equal loudness. So that's something we would probably need to fix first, at least in the next step, to kind of like put an automation on the volume or some more compression in here. Let's play this. So that's something I should have fixed before I bounced it. Good that I keep everything as MIDI as well in my project, so I can bring that back after this video and maybe adjust like the lower notes with higher velocities or whatever, like some additional automation in here. Or maybe I even leave them because they're in the gaps of the other stuff. It's not perfect right now. Yeah, let's go like this for now. One way you could probably do that prioritization easier is if we would listen through the whole track. And I usually like to order my stuff like this waterfall from left to right, what comes first. This time I did it a little bit different, so I grouped it a little bit more by category and then left to right. But we could have reordered this by just listening through the track and then kind of like ordering it by priority, which probably would have made it like a lot easier to decide what we mix first, even if we don't really hear this stuff. So just saying as an idea, that could be like a way to prioritize more easy. Now let's just move on. That one is a bit harsh in some places. It would definitely need some EQ. Same as here, the shots are not all the same loudness, so we would be better advised to mix this in here than just here in the channel volume. But I don't want to make like a 5-hour tutorial on mixing, so that's why I'm actually moving really quick. And it's actually an advantage to move really quick. As I explained before, I would rather do like 12 iterations on it and move really quick and screw a lot of things up here than spending like an hour on this, an hour on this, and in the end maybe still screwing it up. You see here, I don't really like that so loud like in before, so that's maybe something we would automate. The way I usually go with this is to put it like in utility, or because I usually have compressors everywhere, I would have this here a little bit louder in the part I want to have. So let's put it then here in that part how we want. And in that part, which is really full, we go a bit up, and then we need to make a more beautiful automation line. That's, for example, one of those things which you might forget if you just do it with the other technique. And now we are able to tackle this. Yeah, I guess plus 10.3. Those things I usually make 8 dBs louder and go down here, then you can really see the wave. So we mixed everything in the leads, and the same we would do with the effects, and actually we would do it with a little bit more effort like you have seen with the compressor. So we would go section by section. So we would go with an overall level here, and then we would look into more detail in the sections. But that I won't do, and we also will skip the FX for now and the subs. I quickly brought our raw mix from before, and now we can compare a little bit, and we can also then go into referencing it a bit. So let's play a few sections now. This sounds cleaner. But also a little bit more silent, I would say. So we probably, as we mixed a lot in the mids, we probably brought down the mids. Actually, we could do a quick comparison with the span. Actually, I'm not sure if there's something wrong because it's so similar. I can't really believe it sounds different. So this sounds in some parts better, like here. I really feel a lack of the mids in the new mix. But in other parts, I actually like the new mix more. So this sounded a bit messy and also a little bit too much in the lows here. Maybe it comes from the kick and bass or whatever in that mix. Maybe the kick and bass or something is mixed better. There are differences and some I like more and some I like less. So in the end, that's actually the cool thing. If you make more mixes, then you can reverse engineer it and look what might have done the change. And my hunch is that the kick and bass is mixed better actually. And the leads are mixed worse. But as said, you will definitely need more iterations and invest more time in that. But that was our try in mixing it with faders down. So we mixed the main element, we do it with all of them, of course. And now let's export this, and then we can go one more and just go with the raw mix like we had it. And this time we will use a little bit of referencing and check if we can get it to a better place when we look more at that reference mix. I quickly brought back the old version, how we had it before, the raw mix, like it came out from the production. And I added this reference we created on the Fade Us Down mix as it's matching the sections here better. What I will do now is I will first take another look at the kick and bass because I feel it could be better as we have heard in the other mix. So let's put this on 1/4 note, which is I think a really good setting for kick and bass, and I want to copy this over. And now we have basically two spans. So we have one which is a bit faster and one which is a bit less fast. And then we can compare our track with theirs and make some decisions about our kick and bass. One thing to notice, it's not really perfect because that track has a different key and every bass key is different. So don't make this at home. Take a track with the real key and just look what I do and make it with a track, same BPM, same key. Yeah, I guess that was the kind of like half dB we took out of the bass before. Yeah, let's try that. And now we'll take a look at the drums. I guess our drums are a little bit weak here. So we will first push them in the group and see if it works out. But usually we want to push all individuals to the right level. Just saying, like, because I'm just referencing the spectrum here, I cannot really play it for copyright reasons. What I would do when I would recognize that this has more highs, I would find out what exactly has more highs. Is it the snare? Is it the hi-hats? My feeling is that we have a little bit less shaker vibe in here, so that we could push maybe our hi-hats up. I will put out the crash because the crash I think is a bit too loud and it clogs everything here. So maybe let's start from in the middle. Also let's put off. And now let's take a look at the crash. The crash could go down a bit. And then I'm not so 100% sure about this, cutting like the very, very highs, but it looks like it's here. Let's bring it for now like this, and we will now take a look at the leads. I will look at different sections because sometimes you have, depending on which leads you have a little bit different in the spectrum. In general, we have maybe a little bit much here in these 2 to 400 sections. So for example, this one, maybe I would cut a bit with EQ down to make it more fitting here. I think in general, maybe our leads could benefit maybe from dB down. That's something we will find out. The problem on those things is louder sounds better. So usually if you're used to something and you change it, it sounds worse the first time. So that's why I also say you need to go iterative, like, and keep some breaks in between, also along a few days. So that would be something, for example, I would export and then I would look the next day maybe if it's better like that. I have the feeling we're actually quite good. Maybe we have a little bit sometimes in this 1 to 3K area. Here, for example, it's that acid type lead, which definitely does this. Doesn't look so resonant here, so maybe it's... But that one I know if I cut it here, it doesn't sound good anymore. But what we can do is we could add a multiband compressor here quickly, even if that's also not the focus of this tutorial. That I like to do, like in my peak parts, I check where it's overgoing a bit and then we will address this. Could be cool like this, and then we could either leave it on or just put it here in the peak parts, but then check the automation points if it's not getting something ugly here. But that's something we could do. But actually I'm quite satisfied with that mix, to be honest. And I will definitely change stuff, but not so much on a macro level here. I will go, as I explained before, more into different sections and EQ stuff and put the volume down there. But anyways, the mix is a little bit different, so let's export this as well, and then we will do a final quick comparison on all three of them. Now let's do a quick comparison of our fast mixes. So what's the main differences? So we have the raw, the one with the faders down, and the one where we oriented mostly on the reference mix. Let's look at different points, which ones we like more, and then I can make some decisions maybe for when I go deeper into that. Here the bass is very strong. I guess that's the most strong issue in here. I feel, as said in the beginning, I would need to listen with different devices and different days on it, that this sounds more clear. But still, as I think I'd mixed the drums not really well, this mix has a lot of more brilliance, but to be honest, from my feeling now, it has a little bit too much. So that's definitely something I would then decide maybe if I have 2 more headphones. If I like it that strong, I probably would go something in between those two, I guess. It gets a lot of drive through that drums, which I like. Here, compared from those two, I feel this has a little bit maybe lost on power. And let's compare those two. Here I definitely like the brilliance, because now it fights through all that stuff which is in here. Let's check the next section. Here I like this one actually the most. Somehow it has, for me, a lot of cool balance. Maybe with that extra drums it could be cool. I think this, maybe because the drums are a little bit too crazy mixed on this, or the wrong drums, this gets a bit cold. You know, it's missing that warmness because of the masking from that drums. Let's check this one. Here I guess we have definitely a lack of power in here. Here, like the lowest one, definitely the most. Through that high bass and low drums, it really sounds muffled, in my opinion. I guess this one sounds way more balanced. Yeah, here's definitely too less. It really doesn't transport the message anymore. Both good. Here is definitely this one. This one, through that strong bass, has a lot of build up, and also the drums. I can already make a tendency. I like this one the most. I would guess that we should go a little bit less crazy on the drums, or maybe even automate them a little bit, so that in the sections where they're really cold, we may push the leads a bit more, or we dial a bit back maybe on something in the drums. But usually I like to have the groove very stable, so I would rather push the leads maybe a bit more. Definitely, I guess the reference helped us and the knowledge from this one to nail it a bit more down on the brilliance on the top end. Something I kind of like ignored in my mix. I was failing to have the proper drums in here, and I guess that really improved on the last step. And we did like a really quick move. It was like whatever, like 15 minutes or 20 minutes of mixing. If we would take now the time and really make the details and work them out, and then give it some days break and iteration, I guess we would get to a really good mix. And I swear you will go to a really good mix once this gets released. So I'm already really excited to put it out. Also, if you have followed my live sessions, so for the members, I was creating some of the leads in the live sessions and some of the arrangement. It was actually a track which went quite fast, like 1 week maybe of brainstorming, one with the arrangement and everything, and I'll put like another week of mixing into that and refining it a bit more, and then it's ready to put out.